Welcome to the SVG-TV News for Monday, May 31st. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. The latest report from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank paints a bleak picture of SVG's economy moving forward. In its annual economic and financial review, December 2020, the ECCB said based on available data, the economy of SVG contracted by 2.7% in 2020, in contrast to a 0.5% expansion in 2019. It said the negative outturn was associated with broad-based declines in all of the productive sectors due to the debilitating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that these effects were further dimmed. These effects further dimmed prospects for 2021 by ratcheting up downside risks. The bank further noted in its report that socio-economic developments associated with the explosive eruption of the La Soufrière volcano have significantly hampered the economic prospects of the island, and that the subsequent contraction in activity in key sectors will have grave implications for the overall economy going forward. According to the bank's outlook, the fallout in the economy will not only be reflected in depressed rail sector developments, but also in a deterioration of public finances, and include lower revenue collections consistent with an economy struggling to recover, increased government expenditure related to health and disaster management on three fronts: the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a persistent dengue fever outbreak. It was also noted that expenditure pressures will further be compounded by rehabilitation and reconstruction of damaged infrastructure, government-initiated hotel construction, port development and roadworks, and the perennial threat of damage from an active hurricane season. On the upside, the bank's latest report said due to the present structure of the economy, SVG weathered the pandemic-infused global economic turndown better than its more tourism-dependent regional counterparts, and that any inflows of grants or aid are likely to expedite the recovery process. 8 new positive COVID-19 cases were reported from 167 samples processed on Friday, resulting in a positivity rate of 4.8%. The National Emergency Management Organization said 4 of the 8 cases are linked to an emergency shelter. No new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 192 cases are currently active, and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 2,035 persons have contracted COVID-19, and 1,831 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. The public is urged to continue to use masks, sanitize, physically distance, and get vaccinated to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in the country. And on a live telephone interview on NBC Radio today from Cuba, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez expressed utter dismay at the conduct of the Vincentian public after unmasked persons packed the Arnesville playing field on Sunday for the finals of the Vinci Premier League. The PM shared his reaction to photographs and videos he received showing a grave disregard for the present COVID-19 protocols.
You know, to say I was disappointed is to use a mild word. I was utterly dismayed what I saw. Just from my casual observation, it looked like 20% of people had on masks and the rest didn't. And police were wrong. And I asked the question, why were people not asked to put on their masks and to disperse people? Because you had, in addition to the mic finish stand and the PH stand, you had other stands. You can put people, including the double-decker, to spread people out.
The PM said if persons were not willing to adhere to the protocols, strict measures should have been taken. He also added his recommendation for other proprietors who are not adhering to the protocols.
People didn't want to do it, put on their mask and put on their mask and do the physical distancing. If they are opposed that, I told the commissioner that the police should have cleared the stand completely and let the cricket game be played just for people who are viewing it. And unless some places are closed down, at least on one occasion, they will not understand the ownership of these premises, or the people who operate these premises would not understand.
Dr. Gonzalez said despite the commendable handling of the security concerns following the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano, he has spoken to the Commissioner of Police on what he termed as weak policing of the COVID-19 protocols in the aftermath of the eruption.
Weak policing of the COVID protocols and regulations, and also lack of a sufficient observance by our people of the protocols on COVID and the regulations. And I told the Commissioner of Police a couple of weeks ago, the police who did a very good job, police and Coast Guard, in respect of the dealing with all the security issues after the volcanic eruption, that they probably dropped their guard in their policing and their surveillance of in relation to the COVID protocols and the COVID regulations.
Now for the latest on the La Soufrière volcano, lead monitoring scientist Dr. Adam Stinton said that about 10 small earthquakes have been recorded daily from the volcano since the last update was given on Friday. On NBC Radio this morning, Dr. Stinton further noted that there was good visibility over the weekend as the clouds were lifted off the volcano and the monitoring team was able to see things they were previously unable to after the volcano explosively erupted on April 9th.
10 or so small earthquakes a day since we last spoke. Over the weekend we had some really good visibility. The cloud lifted off the volcano on particularly on Saturday. It was excellent visibility from the observatory, and we were able to see the steaming that's been occurring since the end of the explosions in April. And as a result of the low cloud cover, or I should say the lack of cloud cover, we also received notification of several thermal anomalies, i.e. the satellites were detecting the heat from the fumaroles that are generating the steam plumes.
The last gas measurement, which was done last Thursday, recorded 240 tons of gas being emitted from the volcano. Dr. Stinton said while there is a low level of activity taking place at the volcano, it remains in a state of unrest.
Basically, we don't have any magma at the surface. What we're seeing is like residual activity that's occurring after we've had these large explosions. So this is fairly low levels of activity. As I said, we've got the steaming from the fumaroles, which incidentally are probably around 400 to 500 degrees Celsius, if not hotter. So those are very high temperatures. And so this sort of thing occurs quite often after you have a serious or a significant explosive eruption, as has occurred here. And this sort of low levels of activity can occur for many weeks to months after a significant eruption.
Meanwhile, the lead monitoring scientist said some hazards expected during the hurricane seasons are heavy mudflows or lahars and landslides in the valleys originating under La Soufrière. Dr. Stinton said for the rainy season, persons must avoid these areas.
Arabica and other places like that, you should expect large mudflows, large lahars when there's heavy rainfall on the volcano, and obviously that hazard, that threat is going to be present for the entire rainy season. And basically, it's anytime you can expect heavy rainfall, you should anticipate having lahars. So people should obviously stay away from these valleys during heavy rains, should basically just avoid these places.
Dr. Stinton also noted that with heavy rainfalls, heavy steaming can be expected from the volcano.
With heavy rainfall, you might also see an increase in steaming from the summit crater. This is simply a result of the heat in the fumaroles simply turning the rainwater that falls in or collects in the ground inside the summit crater into steam. That's a normal process. So, you might expect to see a slight increase in the amount of steaming that occurs after a heavy rain, but that would only last for a short period of time, and the amount of steaming should sort of return to sort of normal levels, if you like. Yeah. So those are the two things that you might want to look out for as a result of heavy rainfall during the hurricane season.
Persons from communities in the orange zone have begun to return home. Today, our news team was on the leeward side of the island and spoke to some returning residents. In Rose Hall, persons say it was a premature call for them to return home. Retired teacher and part-time farmer Glenroy King of Belmont Rose Hall has been back and forth cleaning his home and surroundings. King returned home full-time last week Wednesday, and according to him, it has not been the same.
The ash that came from the roof and the yard, I've been able to clean in front of the house. And this is one of the piles of ashes. I threw some over there, and then there's some over here on this side here. So that amount of ash came from people's house roof, my neighbor's roof, and the road and the yard. So it's plenty ash. Over 6 inches of ash was on the road. That the conditions are not really conducive for permanent residents, but we have to live with it, because whenever the wind blows, the ash blows up and the whole atmosphere is again filled with ash. Even though the BRAXA and the government agencies are cleaning the road, the side roads and the drains, as you would see, they're still working and cleaning the drains. The ash is still, and elsewhere around the area, ash is still there. But one of my vehicles, I left the pickup here. During all that process, the pickup was actually here. And then one of the times I came back, I used it to drop a few of my friends who helped me to clean down to Rosebank. And after that, ash seemed to have gotten into the carburetor. So right now, it's not really working as it should.
Several women from the community say the dust is too much to bear, especially for the children.
Bypass roads, they have ash and they have dust and stuff like that. We can't open our windows. We have to be inside our house. The children then cannot come out to play. So we have to stay indoors and keep the windows closed and the doors and stay inside. Because once the breeze is blowing, the dust and the ash, it can affect us. It's not good. The sound, it is not good.
We enter outside in we yard, we foot on a white like a snow. Real dust. And the government not should send we back home for right now. In we yard, we have real ashes. So we all in we house. More we clean, more ashes. So we really want more time.
The women who moved out of private and public shelters say their accommodation was great.
I was in a private home. Yeah, so I came back with mattress and stuff like that. I have no regret. I enjoy myself in a private home. Get good treatment and stuff like that in private home. It was good.
I was in a shelter. It was wonderful. I am not telling a lie. Good treatment. Wonderful. I come back home with mattress, but with food stuff from the kitchen where they say those stuff was left. So they distribute them in small package and give us to bring home.
Persons from the orange zone were told over 2 weeks ago that they could return to their homes, and up to last Thursday, NEMO said just over 100 persons had left the shelters, with the majority expected to leave on the weekend. On the leeward side of the island, all communities in the orange zone can be reoccupied except for Chateaubriand and Fitzhughes. Disaster coordinator for Rosebank, Everett Inns, has commended the work that has started with the cleaning of the roads. However, he said that the dust will remain a problem for the residents as piles of ash are being left on the side of the road, and he's calling on the authorities to address the matter.
The road, if you notice, there are gangs out. They're cleaning, but they are putting the ash at the side of the road, and they need the trucks in the area to move the ash. Because when they're there and the wind like blows and so, it scatters the dust again, the ash again, and that is dangerous to people. I like to see it removed as soon as possible so that more people can come back to their homes and settle themselves and go back to the usual way of life.
The community activist said that Rosebank was heavily impacted by volcanic ash and a lot of work has gone into cleaning up the community.
The cleaning is not a problem because the gangs are doing well, but removing the ash from the roads after they put them in heaps and so, that is the problem. It's dry, keep blowing all over. You clean today, and then, let me see, you clean this morning, by this afternoon, you have to clean again. The dust keep blowing all the time. I mean, it's understood, we know this would happen, but if you get the ash from the side of the road to go somewhere, dump them somewhere good away from the community, that would be much better.
Rosebank is one of the leeward communities which has seen people returning home since they evacuated. Instead, though there are some concerns, it will make it easier for them to resettle.
After the eruptions, people kind of displaced and so. And they're now coming back, that people, they like their homes. But coming back here presently is kind of dusty, you see, clouded. And it's not really too comfortable to live at this moment in some of the areas in North Leeward. I'm happy people, they're coming back because we have to start again. We can't just sit down in the shelters and expect life to be as usual. Come and start your usual work, clean your houses, get back to what you were doing, and things will be okay again.
A 15-member team from the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force, along with 15 members from the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda, were deployed to St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Saturday. According to the Antigua Daily Observer, the officers will assist with the maintenance of law and order and humanitarian work as part of the Regional Security System RSS efforts. Their efforts are to support a member state during a period of disaster. In SVG's case, it's the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano which has caused severe devastation to homes and agriculture. Since the eruption of the volcano on April 9th, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, and the RSS, in collaboration with the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, activated a disaster response mechanism to support the humanitarian relief efforts on the ground. Farmers from the red and orange zones will receive their first agricultural income support payment on Friday, June 18th. Minister of Agriculture Soboto Caesar made the announcement on radio this morning.
We are going to begin the process for the first set of payments on June the 18th. The payments for income support. And for persons in the red and orange zones, you will receive payments in June. From June 18th, you'll receive a payment in July, August, September, October, November, and December. So you will get your last payment in the middle of December.
Farmers and other persons from the red zone were promised income support of either $500 or $400 EC dollars per month for the rest of the year to help them cope with the loss of income as a result of the eruption of La Soufrière. This is part of the supplementary budget of $18.8 million. Minister Caesar said farmers in the red and orange zones who have no farmer's ID will be given the chance to get one, and that officers from the Ministry of Agriculture will be meeting with farmers from tomorrow at the various shelters to further discuss this and other matters.
There's just some farmers, it might be a planting farmer. He isn't selling to a supermarket. He isn't trading anything. He isn't using any he doesn't want a card to go to Western Union. Nobody is sending any money to him. But he's a legitimate farmer. Good. We are not going to hold back the process. We have a list with farmers with valid IDs, but we are going to give those farmers in the red and orange zones a chance, an extra chance. And we are visiting the shelters from tomorrow to speak to farmers, to see persons who have farmed, and we have the extension staff and the justice of the peace to help to verify. Right. And there is also a team that we have with other farmers from the area, because if you really want to know who's farming, the farmers from the area will know who's a farmer.
The Agriculture Minister also used the opportunity to warn persons who are not legitimate farmers that the Ministry of Agriculture's extension staff will be vigilant to ensure that only farmers receive income support.
Who are not legitimate farmers, who may see an opportunity and want to use the opportunity. But I want to state that our extension staff would be very vigilant to ensure that our focus is on the farmers, and we also will be assisting the fishers. And there will be legitimate cases where, since the COVID-19 list was created, that some persons, their IDs have expired. And the rule that you cannot receive your payment with an expired ID, it's a rule that is set down by the Treasury, and it's good to have a valid ID if you're a farmer.
Minister Caesar said a further announcement will be made next week as to the different locations where the payments will be made. Meanwhile, the Agriculture Minister on radio made an appeal for farmers from the red and orange zones to locate their animals and have them put back in their pens or tie them, noting that there have been complaints that stray animals have been destroying what is left of the crops in these zones.
Need to tie our animals back. So we need to go back into the areas, persons who have access to certain areas, and because a lot of farmers now are crying out that the animals that are on the loose are causing significant damage to their crops.
Whatever is left of
yes, so I just want persons to be aware of the process and the interval. So in the immediate aftermath of the first explosive eruption, we ask persons to let their animals loose, and this included even their
Minister Caesar noted that persons who are unable to tie their animals will be assisted by the Ministry of Agriculture. Meanwhile, on radio today, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez sought to clarify why arrowroot farmers will receive payments for their unharvested crops as opposed to farmers of other crops. Calling in from Cuba, the PM said while arrowroot farmers were ready to harvest their crops, they did not get the chance to do so because they were not given the go-ahead before the eruption, making the responsibility for the destroyed unharvested crops that of the government.
The arrowroot farmer is not on the same footing as the other farmers for this reason. The government has a factory. Well, the Arrowroot Association, it is a state-run operation with the farmers. And it is the factory manager and the Arrowroot Association would say to the farmers, when you can reap your crop, because of the ability of the factory to consume X amount of arrowroot. So all of these arrowroot farmers, the arrowroot was ready to reap. They didn't get the call yet to reap. So because they didn't get their reaping card, it's still our responsibility because they were ready to reap. But we didn't tell them to reap because of the volume we already had. I don't want people who are planting and yam and dasheen and bananas and vegetables to tell me you're not treating them fairly because you paying arrowroot farmers for arrowroot in the ground.
Farmers of other crops will receive temporary ongoing support with payments of $500 monthly for those living in the red and orange zones, while green and yellow zone farmers will receive a one-time payment of the same amount. And following an auction sale which has generated over 700,000 EC dollars, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez announced that former employees of the Bookament Bay Resort will begin receiving payments on Friday.
Workers at Bookament are getting their payment from Friday, from the proceeds of what we had sold, the things, the TVs and the furniture and so on. Now, Camilo had announced that in the budget, in the supplementary budget. So I think that's an important payday too. It might be about $700,000, I believe, in that kind of region. I don't know what the final number is, but I would suspect it's a number around that.
The resort, which closed in December 2016, will be operated by Sandals International under its Beaches brand. Recruitment of potential employees has already started. Former Superintendent of Police Jonathan Calvert Nichols was laid to rest on Saturday. Nichols, who died on May 10th, enlisted in the RSVG police force on December 1st, 1981, and retired on July 25th, 2015 at the rank of Assistant Superintendent of Police. At the time of his retirement, he was the head of the Public Relations and Complaints Department. Throughout his career, Nichols worked at several out-district police stations and departments. He was also a chief instructor at the police training school. ASP Nichols also played a vital role in the Pan Against Crime initiative, the establishment of the police youth clubs, the police drama club, and the annual police Christmas caroling contest, as well as the 9 Mornings festival. At his special funeral service on Saturday, the first set of tributes were done by representatives of the Police Union, the 9 Mornings Committee, the Pan Against Crime Committee, the Police Christian Soldiers, the Retired Police Association, Avenues Dancers, among others.
He was involved in Olympics, the Olympic movement, sports and culture, and certainly his contribution at his church. He was also a good friend to many of us.
Jonathan Nichols was literally my arm and leg. The person without prior notice, I used to call upon to do anything.
He was truly a kingdom representative. He carried the unspoken title as the best groom agent in the office, which challenged many to mirror or even outdo his standards.
To Nichols, over the past 10 years and up to the time of his transition, was an important member of the 9 Mornings Committee. He made an invaluable contribution to the development of the festival as we know it today. In fact, the model for hosting 9 Mornings, which we see replicated across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, was in large part developed by Sarge.
Encourage you to be strong. You know, that is something that we can never get accustomed to. But take your courage from God. Be strong in the Lord God. Let Him give you the strength to go on when you can go on.
My soul, be still, my soul.
In tears, the daughter of the late ASP Nichols shared fond memories of her father, along with other family members and close friends.
Seeing your body laying so peacefully, you look so different. I kept telling myself, I don't know who this person is because none of this feels real at all. It's only when I look back at your pictures when you're all dressed up, looking the way that we all remember you, is when it really hits.
He touched each and every one of us in special ways. He may be a small man, but his hand reached far. My uncle will never be gone, because in my mind, he's always there.
His pioneering work in many areas of law enforcement is quite impressive, and much has been said about that. From a chief instructor at the police training school to his vital roles in Pan Against Crime, Root Corps, police drama. I mean, we are talking about a human being who has given a lot to his country.
I looked up to him and I was very proud of him, and so was his siblings and all of the family.
Commissioner of Police Colin John and ASP Junior Simmons spoke about the legacy and commitments Nichols made to the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force.
I knew Jonathan Nichols in 1988 when I joined the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force. At that time, he was working at the traffic department. He is a person who would always impart his knowledge to persons and would be willing to learn from persons and willing to teach persons. He was very serious, very passionate, and very professional in his performance and in life generally.
Initiatives and programs that positively impacted the police force, both then and now. And some of these programs were alluded to earlier on, like the Pan Against Crime, On the Beat, Community Policing and Outreach, Police Christmas Caroling Contest, Police Children Christmas Party, Police Youth Clubs, Neighborhood Watch Groups, and the Special Olympics program.
The SVG Indian Heritage Foundation will celebrate the 160th anniversary of the arrival of Indians to SVG tomorrow. The SVG Indian Heritage Foundation was formalized and launched in 2006 And in 2007, the government of SVG, following the recommendation of then Minister of Culture Rene Batiste, passed an Act of Parliament declaring June 1st Indian Arrival Day and October 7th Indian Heritage Day. Since then, the SVG Indian Heritage Foundation has celebrated Indian Arrival Day with reenactments of the arrival of Indians by boats at Indian Bay, followed by rallies and cultural performances from India, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and local artists. Indian foods have been served and Indian wear displayed at these functions. However, in 2020 and again in 2021, activities have been scaled down due to the pandemic. For this year's Indian Arrival Day, addresses will be made by several persons, including Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, Leader of the Opposition Dr. Godwin Friday, former Minister of Culture Rene Batiste, and President of the Indian Heritage Foundation, Junior Bacchus.